Good afternoon. My name is Shelley, and I would like to introduce you to the folk art of Norwegian Rosemaling. Now, um, Rosemaling has been around for a few hundred years in Norway, and each region of Norway had its own style of Rosemaling. Uh, I know it's hard to see these, but there's just some of the different styles of Rosemaling. Numendal, Rogaland, Telemark, Hallingdal. Those are just a few of the styles, and they all have their little differences. Now, I was trained primarily in Rogaland style, and this is a project that I'm working on, and you can see how the Rogaland, it's symmetrical from side to side. It can also be symmetrical from top to bottom or both. And it's very detailed, and the colors are blended nicely. And that's one of the things about the Rogaland style, is that it is symmetrical and there's more shading, more blending of colors. This one is a telemark, and you can see that it's a little bit brighter colors, and some of the strokes are just laid on top of the other ones and not really blended in. Hallingdal is also another one that I'm familiar with. This is, if you can see this, oh, nope, you can't see that one. Let me see if I can, okay. If you can see this one right up here, this is Hallingdal, and you can see it's even less blended than Telemark or Rogaland. And so, like I said, each region of Norway developed its own style. I started Rosemaling better than 40 years ago. My mom had gone to a Rosemaling class to learn how to do it because she's Norwegian. And she came back from her first class and she showed me what she was doing, and I said, I want to do that. So she called her instructor and asked if it was okay if I joined the class. She said, not a problem. And so second class, I went with Mom and we did Rosemaling. Now, we did several classes together, and we actually even taught some classes. And although it looks very detailed and daunting, it's really not. You get to cut, it's basically like a coloring book. You find your pattern. So like I happened to find this little plate. And so I happened to be able to find a pattern that I could use with it. And so there's my pattern that works well with my little plate. And so then what you do is you take parchment paper. I guess you can see there's parchment paper here that I taped on top of another pattern that I'm going to be working on. And then you trace it onto the parchment paper. And from there, using transfer paper, there's many different colors, kind of like carbon paper. You put the pattern that you traced, just the parchment paper, and you put that on your project, and using the transfer paper, you transfer the pattern to your project. Now, a lot of the detail stuff that you see, let me hold up this. This is the other project I'm working on. It's a tray. And you can see all of these little lines here that look like they're very daunting, very difficult. They're really not. To start out with, you just trace the basic outlines of like the flowers and the leaves that are part of it. This is a good one to look at because you can see here is just the basic outline of the pattern. And if you look on this side, Now it shows all the line work that you do afterwards. So when you trace your pattern, you trace it with just the outline, and then you add the lines later on as you're working with your project. Now, starting rosemalling can be a little expensive if you dive in right away. I'm going to add some documents to the comments in this video so you can see what I'm talking about. This is the supply list. Like I said, it looks very daunting. You know, there's dozens there. But you don't really need as much other than this section down here, the lower right-hand corner. Let me just go through some of the stuff on the list. You're going to want to get a few of the, find where my camera is here, brushes. This is the size 4 blender. You'll probably want to get a couple of size 4 and a couple of size 6. And then there's the round brush. This is for making teardrops, decorative ways to decorate the flowers once you've painted them. And then you've got the liner, which you'll use to make all of the vine lines, and the you know, like the cross hatching on this right here and right here. Those are all made with the liner. So it's a good idea starting out to have, I like at least 2 of everything, because you're going to be working with different colors. So you want to be able to use the paintbrush, set it aside without cleaning it, and then start another color. And so then you have a second brush for the second color. Not so much with the liner, because most of the lines, or a lot of the lines, are going to be the same color. But also this is a lot easier to clean and quicker to clean than your shading brush. And then also you'd want a couple of different colors, a couple of different brushes of the round brush. A couple of the other things you're going to need is obviously a pencil for tracing. And these little styluses, you can get them in many different sizes. It's just got this little bead on the end. And so when you put your parchment paper, tape it down onto your project, instead of using a pencil to go over it, you just use one of these little styluses. That way you can use the same pattern multiple times if you want to save it and use it again. So the brushes are the first thing, and then it's the paint. Now, there's 2 different things. There's background paint, like I've taken this one and I've painted it a dark blue. And there's like more of a Norwegian red that you can use for the background. So those are the paints, the type of paints that you can use to paint the background of your project. These, you'll want to get some fine sandpaper, and you want to smooth it out and make sure that it's nice, a nice smooth surface that you're going to be painting on. So you're going to want some sandpaper. It's always handy to have a brush holder. Now, what I do is I fill it about 3/4 of the way with rice. You can also use beans, and then you're just able to stick the brushes in, and they kind of stay apart so they don't mix with the colors. Painter's tape. You're going to want to get a roll of, and you want to get good painter's tape. This one was not so much. It doesn't stick as well, but you want to get a painter's tape that sticks well. I couldn't find my good stuff. Otherwise, they kind of peel up. Now you're going to also want to get a paint thinner. Now the preferred one is the odor-free mineral spirits. You can also go online and get like a tangerine or an orange flavored one. This one is odorless, but you can have the orange scented one. Now, lard oil is one of the other items that sometimes it's difficult to find it. It is exactly what it sounds like to be. What they take is they take lard and they put it in a pot, heat it up, and then the cracklings, the little pieces of cracklings in there, they'll float to the bottom, and then you'll have just the more pure lard oil on top. Now, it used to be very easy to find lard oil. You could just go to any craft store, and I've been having trouble finding it. Like I said, I started this over 40 years ago. So instead of the lard oil, you can use baby oil. This one is the scented, but you can get unscented if you want. And you're going to need palette knives. I got a package at, I don't know if it was Walmart or one of the dollar stores, but it had several different styles of palette knives. Now, another thing you're going to want is palette paper, and all it is just regular kitchen paper with the shiny side, like you wrap meat in. This one was in the craft section, you know, that you can use it to protect the surface of your table when you're painting. But you don't have to get the one that's specifically for crafts. You can use regular meat freezer paper. Another thing is parchment paper. This one you're going to use for your tracing your pattern. Now you can also get tracing paper in the craft section. It tends to be a little bit more expensive. That's the same if you get palette paper. You know, in the long run is more expensive than just getting some freezer paper. I just bumped my stand for my camera. But the one thing I like about the kitchen Reynolds, or the kitchen parchment paper, and I don't remember if it had it on the other ones, but it's got, I don't know if you can see the guidelines, you know, which helps you center your picture on your surface. Just kind of a thing that makes it a little more symmetrical. Let me look and see. Now, also, you'll notice that I have this pattern. It's just going to be a practice pattern, but it's just on a index card. One thing that we used to use, if you're looking in a magazine, you'll see those advertising cardboard things in the magazine. You can use those, just paint them. Anything you want. If you have leftover cardboard, anything that you want that's firm enough that you can paint over it, and then you'll use that as your practice. And then eventually you'll get to the place where you want to paint something for your project. Now, I've got just acrylic paints. I was having trouble finding, excuse me, I was having trouble finding the actual colors, the Norwegian colors, because there's traditional colors. Now, this isn't a very good I'll make a copy of this and I'll put it in the comments of the video. But there's several different backgrounds. And then when you're mixing your paints, you kind of mix them to the background so that you know they're going to look nice on that background of your project. And then I'll add this also. This is for each of the different background colors. It tells you which colors of the line or the project that the paint that you're going to use. It shows you which ones work the best and kind of gives you a recipe on how to mix up the paints. Now, like I was saying, I wasn't able to find specifically Norwegian colors. These are all acrylics. When I started out, we used, you know, you'd go down to the store and get some, or the hardware store and get some Pittsburgh paints. But you had to give them the recipe for making it, or you just give them and say, okay, I want to get it like this. So I've just been recently using the acrylics, and then I just kind of mix the colors that I want to use for the background color. Let's see what else that I've got in here. Okay, and then also what I'm going to do is I'm going to add just this little thing because when we come back on the next lesson, we're going to be starting doing some basic strokes and then using them to start making the leaves. So those are what's going to be coming up next. Now, before I forget, I was going to tell you about the paintbrushes. Now, if you're buying the recommended paintbrushes, it can get quite expensive. I mean, it can cost anywhere from $15 to $30 for paintbrushes that are recommended. Because a lot of them are made with like sable or hog's hair, but they're all natural fibers. Those tend to be more expensive. Now, I got these packets at one of the dollar stores. So this one has got one of the flat brushes, and then it's got several of the liner brushes. So I can use more than one color there. You're going to want some foam brushes or a larger brush like this to paint the background paint. You know, and these are cheap. You just pick those up. This one I bought online. Now you can see the different sizes. These are all flat brushes, and you can see the different styles or different sizes. The different sizes you're going to use to put in the smaller areas that you need to paint. Now these ones up here, we're really not going to use those much. If you want to do a mural on a wall, yeah, you'll probably need those, but for right now, we're not going to do that. And then this is another one that I got at one of the dollar stores. Now this brand, Royal Langnickel, I haven't opened this one yet to get any of the brushes out of this one to check it, but Royal Langnickel, that's one of the premier brush makers. So I'm hoping that even though this is an economy pack, it might not be quite the quality of their high end, but I know that it's a good brand. And also you're going to just want to get some regular tape, because sometimes, like this one that I'm going to be doing, the whole pattern didn't fit on one piece of paper. So I taped it together. Another way you can do that is when you're doing with your palette paper and you get half of it done, and then you put the other side and trace it through the tracing paper which you originally traced on there. So there's many different things that, like I said, that you can paint on. Like I said, there was this tray, this little plate. These are just things that I picked up. you know, this is a breadboard or a cheese board, but it's not practical for actually using it. But it makes a great project for rosemalling. And then oh, I had a few other ones, but those are just examples of things that you can use. But like I said, don't be daunted by the list, and the less expensive alternative for the supply list is fine. I almost forgot. Let me. You also need paints. Oh, and I was organizing my stuff. So there's about 10 or 11 different colors of paints that you're going to use. Now you can go into the dollar store, and I got this set at one of the dollar stores. It was like $10. But generally this is Grumbacher. I don't know if you can see that, but it's Grumbacher. And that's a nice brand to use because you get a consistent texture. You know, it's not runnier than another one. There's a few, like the ones that are cadmium based with are tend to be thicker. But there's 11 different colors that are on the list. Those are the ones that you want to start out with. And then there's linseed oil. I told you about the lard oil. Linseed oil is what you can use to thin your paint a little bit. If it's too thick, or if it's for making delicate line work, you want it thinner. And we'll go over that in another class. And then this is a dryer. I don't know, there's something wrong with this. I might have to take this back send this back. But you can also get, oh, this is not what I ordered. I didn't even look at it. You can get Japanese dryer, which if you add the linseed oil, just put in a drop of the rapid dry, and so it dries faster for you. You know, there's one that's a dry, quick dry, they call it, because we use oil paints. We use oil paints to actually paint the design on the product. It does take a while to dry. There's different things that you can use. Now, you don't want to have to be touching things as you're drying and smear, because like I said, they do sometimes take a while to dry. And this is a hand bridge, and so this one I just made the other day, and I have to revise it because there's too much space here. But you put this over the top of your project that you're painting, and you use it to make your hand more steady. I think let me put this down just a little bit. So I put my project here. I don't need the pattern. I put the project here, and then I just kind of use this to steady my hand while I'm painting. And you can use it. This one is about 14 inches long. I made these an inch and a half. Whoever cut those for me didn't do a very good job, but we won't complain. But probably 3/4 of an inch would be enough to cover most of your projects. I talked way too long again. That happens. I just keep going off. That's because I really like this art form, and I am very much more passionate about the Rogaland style. Takes a little more work than the other one, but it's not as hard as it looks. Like I said, you basically get a paint by number that you just fill in the colors, and that's something that we'll go over in classes to come. But for right now, I am going to let you go, and we'll be back to this next time. The one thing I do want to make sure that you print off if you're going to come back for the first class of the actual painting, you're going to want to print this out and then trace this onto your paper. So, you know, or you want to, well, trace it on parchment paper and then transfer it onto here. And do like about 5 or 6 of each style. And like I said, you only have to do the outline. You don't need to do all of the line work. So just trace the outside. And then this one does have 3 bumps on it. And again, you know, take your practice board, trace about 5 or 6 leaves of each style on your practice paper, and we'll go over more details in the next session. And thank you for watching.